Okay, so welcome again to our lecture. This is in continuation to the topic that we discussed last time about globalization. So we tackled last time that globalization is already taking place in our country, and there are a lot of foreign companies trying to invest in our company, and likewise, our country are trying to go out on their own barriers, no? So that they can communicate with other people through the use of globalization with the use of communication as well. No? Now, because our focus here is communication, we are trying um, to check our multicultural context, and with the help of globalization we can acquire various cultural differences and communication to other countries. Now, talking about globalization, another subtopic for that is multicultural context. Now, what is this multicultural context? When we talk about multicultural context, that is the emergence of global society. With the help of academic and professional environment, we have become multicultural already. So that means you coexist with people from diverse and or different cultural backgrounds, belief, religion, gender, nationalities, and ethnicity. That will also include the different gender biases terms and sexisms, no? Also, the verbal and nonverbal communication are also being emphasized in multiculturalism, because we do not want to neglect our people um uh, with the with disabilities, no? For example, the people who don't know how to speak, no, the deaf and mute, no? So we don't want them to be excluded in the multicultural aspect. So your verbal communication is always accompanied by nonverbal cues such as gestures, facial expression, and other body movements that add to what you are saying in different ways. Now, according to Bennett and Bennett in 2004, they developed the model of intercultural sensitivity, or DMIS. No? It has um, 6 stages to follow. Now, I want you to check yourself if you are in the stage 1 to 6, no? Because this is somehow a gauge of how we are willing to converse with other people outside the country. And sometimes we are afraid to communicate with other people because of the stages that was being identified. Now, if you are in stage 1, we are still in denial. These are the people who do not recognize cultural differences at all. They only see people who are the same language that they have. No, for example, Ilonggo to Ilonggo or Hiligaynon to Hiligaynon, or people who are only speaking in Tagalog to Tagalog. They don't want to use other languages. No? The stage 2 is defense. No, these are the individual that starts to recognize cultural differences, and it is intimidated by other people. They know that there are people who exist like multilingual. No, they have the ability to speak different languages or more than 2 languages. No? So that's the tendency of other people. No, they are intimidated because they know how to speak a lot of languages or more than 2 languages. Now, in the stage 3, we have minimizations. No, so this is the stage where the individual see cultural differences. However, she or he banks more on the universality of ideas than cultural differences. What does it mean? No, it only talks about certain ideas that they know. However, they don't want still to engage with multicultural languages or communication. Now, the stage 4 is the acceptance. This is the time that people are trying to to become open-minded and appreciate important cultural differences. They have the ability to acknowledge that people are different in terms of cultural and language differences, the behaviors, and also the values that they have. They have differences with that. No? So the stage four is somehow a good gauge, no, for you to accept the multiculturalism in our globalization. Now, the stage five is the adaptation, which becomes the individual becomes very open to the world views and accepting their new perspective. They are the ones who are trying to learn different languages such as Korean, Japanese, Spanish, and other um, languages outside the Philippines, no, because so perhaps they wanted to go to the outside world, no, or the other countries, and wanted to explore more. Now, the sixth stage is the integration, where people are trying to use whatever it is that they have learned from the adaptation, from the things that they've learned uh, from various tutorials, various learning institutions, and go beyond their own culture and see themselves what are the differences between this and that, no? From the Americans to the Filipinos, Japanese to the Filipinos, no? They wanted to see themselves or in actual the conversation that they are going to deal with, no, from that country to our country in the Philippines, no. So there are six stages according to Bennett and Bennett, the DMIS, or the intercultural sensitivity. Kindly check if what stage are you in, and kindly develop the stage if you are beyond or below the stage four. I want you to go beyond the stage four already and try to learn as much language as you want, no? Because that will help you someday in your own journey as individual to communicate with other nationality. Now, intercultural communication skills is when you interact, negotiate, or convey information in a multicultural setting. You apply your intercultural communication skills. Simply put, intercultural communication is sending and receiving of information, ideas, and messages across languages and culture. One common intercultural communicators are the BPOs, because they are the ones who are interacting with other people outside the country, because they are receiving calls from other countries, no? So the BPO industry are one example of a good globalization in intercultural communicators from other countries to our country, no? So they are negotiating sales, they are giving instructions, they are giving aid or provide services to the people who are asking some products in their company. So that's how intercultural communication is. Now, according to Volpe and the others, one major competencies of intercultural communication or effective person is intercultural communication, whose core skills are included in the following. Now, these are the checklists that you want to check, no? Whether you are having this kind of skills already. These core skills are very important to acquire, no? Because these are the skills that needed in the intercultural communication aspect, no? That's when you communicate with other people. Now, number one is the ability to express understandable and culturally sensitive thoughts, feelings, opinions, and expectations. Now, you are going to um, express things, no, based on their beliefs. Of course, you have to research first their cultural beliefs, no, their opinions, and the languages that they are using, if they are okay with this language or not, no. So ability to engage and immerse in local culture and language. Now you have to exchange ideas from your culture, from being a Filipino, and asking questions also with their cultural uh, activities, like what are the differences between Koreans and Filipinos in terms of religion, in terms of manners, no? In terms of employment or work ethics. No? So those are just simply engagement of conversation to the local culture and languages. Now, ability to establish shared meanings with the local people to avoid stereotyping and miscommunication. You have to give some simple details why Filipinos behave this way so that you have or you have to avoid the miscommunication that we are emphasizing, also the stereotyping. In the same way, they are going to explain also the different red flags in their communication barriers, no? Or communication culture. Ability to develop a language capacity such as using local greetings and opportunity to use the local language in other contexts. So primarily when you are learning the language, you have to first familiarize the basic language, the greetings and the simple language that they have. No? For example, the the Japanese, no, the konnichiwa, no. So those are the simple language, local greetings, no, that you have to bear in mind in some other countries as well, no, because that will give you automatically the engagement to converse with other people in their language. Now, the ability to emphasize with how the local sees the world also. Try to think what is their perspective in terms of their views around the world. No, that there's certain countries and the other countries that they are exploring. The general misguidelines or general guidelines for communicating in multicultural contexts. Again, these are the checklists that you wanted to check, no, within yourselves if you are trying to communicate in a multicultural level. Now, avoid asking inappropriate or personal questions, but I do not suggest this when you are already building rapport to other nationalities. It's okay to ask personal questions, provided that you have already known each other like a year, 2 years, or longer than that. No? But the moment when you are trying to converse with people outside the country or other nationalities, just now, no. So please avoid asking inappropriate or personal questions. Also, avoid stereotyping and generalizing certain groups. Keep an open mind and be flexible. This is very common to Chinese people already in the Philippines. No, we are stereotyping the people in from China. No, that they are number one, kuripot. Number two, they are trying to build another virus such as that, no. So stereotyping and generalizing certain groups is please avoid that, because they do not represent the whole country of a certain ethnic groups, no. Some people are just behaving like that and some people are still okay with their culture. Avoid using jargons, cliche, highfalutin terms, technical terms, acronyms, and gender-biased languages. What are these gender-biased languages? Of course, do not use the words like, for example, janitress or janitor, because that will determine the gender already. Perhaps you can say the gender-neutral terms like maintenance crew or maintenance staff, no? Do not use the janitor or janitress. So be sensitive, polite, tactful, and respectful at all times, particularly in relation to cultural practices, attitudes, and belief. Learn and understand the value of diversity. Develop intercultural communication skills. Eliminate gender biased words or sexist language, particularly in writing. This is very common because we are sometimes using emails and chat, no, to other people outside the country or other nationalities. So kindly use the neutral terms, no, like perhaps you can say dear ma'am or sir if you do not know the person. That will eliminate the gender bias in terms of authority, because most of the time you are writing dear sir in some companies who are having a male CEO. So to make it neutral, just simply put dear mom sir if you do not know the name of the person you are conversing with. But still, it is advisable to know the person's name so that you may address the person properly. Like Mr. Smith, no? Or Mrs. Thompson. So please research if what is the gender of the person, because of course it's a big deal for them to use the Mr. and Miss with their surname. In case you do not get the message conveyed by the person you are communicating with, request him or her to repeat the message or simplify it. Learn and observe physical distance or space in dealing with other people. Some cultures, handshaking and hugging may not be appropriate, especially with the Arabic countries. Uh, um, they are not allowed to hug, I think, no? Because especially women and men, no? Especially when they are um, dealing with their same nationalities, no, I think they're not allowed because it's a huge deal, no, with in terms to their cultural background. So please research first if the person is allowed to have a handshake or hugging, no. But I think other countries are now eliminating this culture because of course because of globalization, that everyone is allowed to have this kind of gestures, no, because this is somehow a friendly gesture to meet and greet other people. But still there are nationalities that are trying to observe their cultural beliefs, so please be observant with that. This listen attentively with when others are speaking. That's the most basic um, rule when communicating with other people. Observe patience in listening to other people's ideas, which may not be same as yours. Be an open-minded person. No? Pay attention to your nonverbal communication. Learn nonverbal cues for each or for other culture. Some people don't want to have an eye contact. Some people want, or some nationalities want an eye contact. So please search the person or the culture of the person you are talking to. Respect a person's rights to confidentiality and privacy. That's why do not ask personal questions if you're meeting the first time. No? Show consideration, speak gently and politely. Please use the magic words like please, kindly. Never shout to be understood. Um, just speak calmly. Stay calm, cool, and composed when you make a mistake or feel embarrassed by others. Culturally, others don't mean to embarrass you. Make positive interpretations of the actions and words of other people. When you feel strange or uncomfortable about something being communicated by other people, request them to clarify their meanings and intentions before you express your emotions and ideas. Now, what are the ways to avoid gender biased language? Because this is somehow very important, because this is already recognized around the world that you are a sexism or gender stereotype. No? So to avoid this, number one is the substitution of the pronouns with articles and determiners such as a and or the. No? So do not use pronouns his, instead use a article or determiner. So for example, the sexist sentence is every employee is entitled to his 13th month pay. Now, to transform that into non-sexism statement, just simply change the his to an article or a. Every employee is entitled to a 13th month pay. So that's how you change the sexism language to non-sexism. Now use plural nouns instead of singular nouns because of course the plural nouns will automatically change the plurality or the one being described, no, in the sentence. So we cannot identify the gender of the person if we use the plural nouns, no? So for example, each employee is entitled to his 13th month pay. Now to change that is, of course, you change that into their. So change the each to all employees are entitled to their 13th month pay. So that's how you change non-sexism to sexism or sexism to non-sexism, the other way around. Use either or pronouns his, her, his, hers. For example, the sexism here is every employee is entitled to his 13th month. Now, to change this is simply add his or her because we do not know the gender of each employee or every employee. So to transform that, of course, you just simply add her. Every employee is entitled to his or her 13th month pay. Use second person pronoun you or your over third person pronoun he or she because again, that will automatically eliminate the gender bias because you and your doesn't have gender at all. So this is neutral. Be careful not to change the meaning of the statement. So for example, the salesman should prepare his marketing spiel for our new product. Now to change that into a neutral form or non-sexism, you should prepare your marketing spiel for our new product. It already eliminated the gender of the person. So this is somehow safe when it comes to talking to person, especially when you're not familiar with the gender of the person. No? So that is very safe uh, to say. No? Use appropriate titles. So we have sexism, dear sir. Of course, we do not know the addressee of the person. So sometimes we use dear sir, but that is sexism. How about the if you are referring to a female, no? So you can use dear sir, ma'am, or slash madam, no? Or attention to HR manager because automatically we do not know the gender of the HR manager or to the HR manager, whether he or she is a male or female. Now that's how to avoid gender biased language. So please be mindful of whatever you say or the things that you are writing into. Okay, so we will be ending here and we will now be moving on to our lecture 4, I think, next meeting. So thank you very much for being here or listening. And I want you to check your LMS because there is already a activity for you to answer. Okay, thank you very much for listening, guys. I hope you learn a lot. Uh, Please do not hesitate to ask questions in our GC. Our GC is open or available anytime. Thank you.